Watershed, it can be said, our home place. The clouds, the hills, our roof, our halls, and simple truth of watershed, here all our waterfalls.
Stewarding our watershed, an important contribution in conserving our local habitat for future generations. Whether you are working the landscape or just an outdoor enthusiast, we can all play a part in environmental stewardship through individual actions that together make a difference.
The health of the main stem of the Ottawa River is really only as healthy as the tributaries that flow into it. So the tributaries and the tributaries of the tributaries are what really is important for the long-term health of the river.
When local streams and lakes, or tributaries, of a river become polluted, it contributes to the pollution of the river itself. Therefore, it is important that we properly steward all of our local waterways and water bodies.
Here we are at Harris Creek on Highway 60 in the Bonnechere River Watershed. In 2009, the BRWP started a river watch program to get a sense of stream health, and Harris Creek was one of 26 sites that were sampled.
The River Watch program aims to provide a baseline of information on the health of the Bonnechere River and its tributaries. Such information will be used to monitor the ongoing health of our waterways, revealing how current management practices and activities are affecting our local environment. Harris Creek is one of many River Watch sites.
This is one site of 40% of the sites that were found to have poor condition based on the composition of the benthic invertebrates in the stream. So this is a site of concern for us in the Bonnechere River watershed to try and understand what are the factors contributing to the poor condition.
Poor stream health can be identified by looking at the biodiversity of the waterway in question. In-stream invertebrates, such as sow bugs, and certain types of vegetation, such as algae, are indicators of poor waterway health. Stream health is a reflection of natural conditions as well as the actions we take on the land surrounding it.
Cattle access to this creek is one of those areas of concern. You can see the shoreline erosion on the far side of the creek, which can contribute sediment to the creek along with nutrients from cattle in such close proximity. There are also maybe other conditions further upstream that are contributing to factors that are causing this site to have a very low benthic species diversity and a high abundance of the few species that do occur that are known to be pollution tolerant.
A contributing factor of deteriorated waterways in the Bonnechere River watershed is cattle being allowed direct access, eroding shorelines and dropping manure directly into the water. One local farmer, however, has striven to eliminate access for his cattle to the waterway, while still providing them with plenty of water.
When we were looking to have more options with watering our cattle in the summertime, something that would provide a real clean source of water, dependable source of water. You can't have the cattle come in here, 10-foot deep pond. We'll probably lose a lot of cattle. It wasn't what we were trying to do. So we decided, we had already kind of made the decision, we were going to put a solar pumping system in. We heard some pretty good things about them.
Drawing water from a nearby pond and pumping it to a nearby trough, his cattle have ample water, as Bob Dobson explains.
So this 24-volt pump is powered by two 12-volt batteries and provides all kinds of water, clean water for the cattle. The sun power is collected on the two 75-watt panels, 150 watts, and that has given us ample power through 3 days, 4 days of cloudy weather, even when we were watering over 100 head of cattle here.
Clean water has shown to be extremely beneficial to cattle compared to degraded water. A university study showed that cattle that drank clean water rather than degraded water weighed 18 pounds more, a notable difference when cattle herds have populations that can range into the hundreds.
This is the other end of the solar system. This trough we poured in ground here. It's 1,000 gallons. So what you want when you have a large herd of cattle coming to drink on a hot day, you want lots of accessible water and lots of headspace, so they don't have to line up too long, because they get impatient if they're really thirsty.
The Dobson farm not only showcased their solar-powered watering system, but also their efforts in creating riparian buffer strips, which not only shelter the cattle, but are also great wildlife habitat.
That's called the riparian area, that little strip of land right beside the stream that comes through the farm, the creek that goes across the farm. And that's the most valuable wildlife area on our farm. It's probably, I would guess that it could be 10 times more valuable, 5-10 times more valuable than the top of the hill for wildlife. Because it's had that water there. It's had the water. The top of the hill is a half a mile from the water, the top of this hill. The buffer strips, we tend to put more wildlife shrubs in there. In case I forget, I'll mention now. And we put highbush cranberry, elderberry, dogwood, nannyberry, and a couple of other berries.
The Dobson farm is also using shelter belts to reduce chilling crosswinds for the cattle, while providing habitat for wildlife. When selecting trees or shrubs that will make up their shelter belts, Dobson Farm chooses to use local seed stock, because vegetation grown from such seeds will be acclimatized to our winters, as opposed to seed that is grown in more southern climates.
But we have about 1 mile of this right from the front of the farm to the back of the farm. We get 1 mile of this type of shelter belt, another mile of various degrees of shelter belt. Lots of opportunity for wildlife in here. Here are a few birds. You often don't see them because they're in the thick of the trees. There's nests in there, and we get the benefit.
Stewarding our local farmland is important. So is stewardship of our native habitats, such as forests and wetlands. We had the opportunity to go on a tour of one such wetland, where many conservation initiatives have been undertaken.
We've put in nesting boxes, which you can probably see in the background here with the Renfrew County Stewardship Rangers and the Pikwakanagan Earthwalkers. We've kept track of them, the nesting habits, and both the ranger crews have been doing the monitoring and the maintenance of the boxes and installing.
Nesting boxes were not the only addition to the wetland. Turtles were also being kept in mind.
We've put in some turtle basking platforms. We've got snapping turtles, we've got Blanding's turtles, and painted turtles. I guess it's the eastern painted turtle.
Although Ron Deschênes strives to foster wildlife through his environmental projects, he adds a note of caution.
How much destruction am I doing of this particular area? And what's the saw-off? Are we going to recuperate anything here environmental-wise that's going to help?
Forest is another native habitat that is important to conserve. A local area that has been well stewarded is Shaw Woods, a rare example of old-growth mixed forest.
The property was it was a farm, and this woodlot was never actually cut. Mm-hmm. The Shaws preserved it since they settled in 1847.
Being an old-growth forest, you wouldn't expect to find many invasive species throughout the woods. However, as we learned, even the pristine forest of Shaw Woods is not immune to invasive competition.
So one of the things that we're noticing in here is, even though it's an old-growth forest and you would think that it's quite a virgin forest, there's problems happening. One of them being that we have the highway access very close. We do have some openings that have plants that kind of get established and then are spreading into different places. So we have to be watchful for, and one of them is actually right here. And this is a plant that came in from Europe. It's actually a medicinal plant called coltsfoot, and it has a yellow flower. It's one of the earliest blooming plants in the spring, and you can see that it's kind of creeping up the trail here. So it's one area that we have to watch, and so it doesn't actually get off to the sides, because it's trying to get into the bush, but this is kind of its trailhead here, I suppose. And so what we're planning on doing is putting a covering on here with mulch, and that'll hopefully stop it in its tracks.
Identifying such invasive species in order to limit their spread requires regular monitoring of the local environment. This is why frequent studies or surveys of sensitive areas are of vital importance. These surveys also help to document the diversity of plants and animals. One such study was being conducted during our presence in Shaw Woods.
There's a professor from Guelph, University of Guelph, named Alex Smith, and he approached us this year to get permission to set up a malaise trap, which is what this is called here. The insects come down, there you can see in the back here, there's a little rise of land. They'll naturally fly down along this little ephemeral stream downhill, and so it's a very good site for the trap. They'll go in underneath these flaps, and this is filled with ethyl alcohol, which is a material that's used for trapping them. So they'll fly up and they'll get into this upper jar chamber, and then eventually drop down into the ethyl alcohol, and they're preserved there. They'll be taken back. We take them out every 2 weeks and put in a new jar, new sample jar. So these are taken back to Guelph, and he's doing barcoding, DNA sequencing of the insects.
Shaw Woods is a rare look at a forest left virtually untouched by natural resource harvesting or development, such as logging or farming. With numerous stands of maple and hemlock over a century old, it is a glimpse into the state of forests in pioneer days. Construction is now underway of the Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Center.
Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Committee, or Center, is a not-for-profit volunteer group. Their mission is to protect the property and showcase the different forest types. Talk about how sustainable forestry happens, and you know, it's a credit to I think a real credit to the Shaws that this land is still here, because in a lot of places it would be developed.
It is up to us all to steward places such as Shaw Woods so that people for years to come can learn from it just as we do. Stewarding our watershed can be done through many different forms, whether it is the planting of a tree or simply taking an interest in the environment. All help to build a better future for ourselves and our descendants. With little actions adding up to equal big change, every little bit helps to conserve the nature in our neighborhood.
Watershed, it can be said, our home place. The clouds, the hills, our roof, our halls, and simple truth of watershed, here all our waterfalls.